What's up with it, YouTube? It's your boy Rojo from a convict's perspective. And I just wanted to say what's up to you guys. How y'all doing? Hit that like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we've talked about like the Aryan Brotherhood and the Black Gorilla family, in prior episodes. And basically touched on how both groups kind of have lost a lot of influence and power and control within California. Especially the BGF. But man, I was reading up on the Aryan Brotherhood as far as the feds go, and man, they're still a major factor in the feds. They've always been strong in the feds, but lately I came across an indictment that happened in November of last year, and it came out of the Eastern District Court out in California, in Fresno, and I kind of stumbled across it. I had heard rumors and stuff about that they had been indicted, but never found the information until today, man. And it was apparently more than 60 AB members and associates were arrested for the RICO Act, basically violent crime, firearms fraud, trafficking, etc. And all these people are going to end up going to the feds because obviously, if it's the what you call it, the U.S. Attorney's Office out of the Eastern District in California, it's obviously federal. And man, the AB has had such a history inside the feds. They were real prominent in California, and now I'm sure they're expanding their reach, just like other gangs are. With the end of hostilities and everybody being kicked out of the shoe. Even though there was only a few of those guys left compared to say the MA and the NF, they're still there. You know what I mean? And they are with the business. A lot of people automatically, assume that the powerhouses are going to be the MA and the NF. And for the most part in California, that is actual. It's just facts. You know what I mean? The MA and the NF, they're going to control every institution, give or take a couple that the white dudes might have a little bit of action at. The Susanvilles and some of those far outreaches where the guards are going to be more likely to do the bidding for them. But the AB and the feds, man, they've never, man, they hit the feds hard and they haven't slowed down, man. And there's a group out of Washington D.C. I mean, I'm sure they take other members. I'm not really too educated as far as their politics go, man. But the name of the group is called the DC Blacks, and they do align with the BGF from what I understand from little research I've done. And they're contrary to the AB as well, and they've had a long-standing violent history in the feds. The Aryan Brotherhood, in the feds, and the DC Blacks, man, at many institutions, man. It's been on since the early '80s. The little operation that the Department of Justice did, at the end of last year on the AB, it resulted in 39 federal and state search warrants, from Fresno, Santa Maria, Los Angeles, and it spread all the way as far as Montana and Alabama. So, I mean, with that in mind, you get the idea that it's a cross country problem with these gentlemen, just like it is for any other group. I mean, these groups, they're going to do their thing primarily out of California. All of them started in California. All of them have branched out by hitting the federal system, by members moving, and whatnot. They're spreading. The release of all those guys from the shoe allows every single group to further their objectives, better recruitment. To join, like for example, to join the NF before, man, it was a 90 something percent guarantee that you had to be in Pelican Bay. You had to go to Pelican Bay. You had to end up in a pod or in a block and maybe even in a pod with some NF members. Now they're on the main lines. They might only, man, some of them guys, the NF members back in the days, they might have only seen, 20 or 30, new people come through whatever block or facility or section that they were in over the course of a lot of years, man, because people go back there with a lot of time, move around, they might go from C8 to C12, C10 to D3. But the odds of running into new people are very small. It only happens a couple times a year, whereas, you move these guys out to these main lines, there's 100 homeboys out there and the yard's flipping over constantly. You know what I mean? So with that in mind, the whites, the brothers, the South and the North, they're going to have all kinds of new blood to try to educate as far as what they want from their people. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but you guys got to remember, man, we've been really, really hit hard on what we've been talking about lately, man. So I'm trying to say it in ways that won't get me in trouble. But all these groups, since they've been kicked out of the shoe, they have a huge recruiting pool now. Now, instead of just being in Pelican Bay or maybe even a little bit in Corcoran, I don't know about how the MA and the AB did in Corcoran, but everything for the NF came out of Pelican Bay. Period. You know what I mean? There was powerhouses in Corcoran and stuff too, but the White House was Pelican Bay. Period. The AB, ever since they came out in the '60s, they've been having a presence in the feds as well. They they've got a very violent presence in the feds. You know what I mean? They're not messing around. They don't mess around in the state, but their numbers are pretty small, so you don't hear about them as much as you're going to hear about the NF or the MA. But them dudes ain't playing, man. They've been the object of so many RICOs and so many murders in the feds that they've definitely secured a stronghold for themselves out there. And although it started in California, they got the ABOT of Texas, and I haven't figured out how they get along once they hit the feds. If the real AB that originated in California and communicates in the federal system, if they accept them guys or not, man, I got to figure that out, man. If anybody knows, let me know. And the feds on this last AB indictment, they do the same thing all the time. You got these guys serving life or serving, enormous sentences inside the state, and they're going to go after and bring them to the feds, which all you're doing is promoting more nationwide growth rather than keeping the situation more isolated into a regional thing in California. But like one of the guys they arrested, Kevin Bash, he was in Salinas Valley. Robert Eversole was in Kern Valley. Todd Morgan was in Salinas Valley. Little David Z was on the streets. You know what I mean? Angel Lopez, he was actually supposedly a member of the MA that got wrapped up in the AB indictment too, and he was at Salinas Valley. But yeah, I'm looking at all these arrests right now. Jacob Renshaw, Shredder, he's in custody in Montana. So what they're gonna do is just keep expanding everybody's. They're gonna make it easier for these people to do their thing nationwide. Which more opportunity, more territory, more acquaintances, more neighborhoods, more soldiers, more money. The goal of all these organizations, whether people think, oh, the AB is a bunch of racists, some of them are for sure. I mean, there's some black people are racist too. Everybody always says, that the racists are automatically going to be white folks, and it's just not the case. You know what I mean? Man, there's northern homeboys that I've had that can't stand other certain groups. But the bottom line with these gangs is, yeah, they might have racial, undertones, but the number one goal is money and control and power. The racial stuff, man, while it might have played stronger in the 60s and 70s, man, it's kind of the level of importance it is to each of these groups has fallen off. They still got their underlying thing with whatever groups, whether the whites against the blacks or against the people from Israel, you know what I'm saying? But the ultimate goal of these organizations, be it any of the big four in the Big Ten, let's call it the Big Ten, Texas Syndicate, Latin Kings, Tongo, disciples, man, it all comes down to dollars. It's an enterprise, it's an organization, it's a group. All of these groups have multi-ethnic people. You know what I mean? The NF, man, it's got white folks, it's had black folks. You know what I mean? The MA, I've seen white, you know what I mean? I've seen black Sureños, I've seen white dudes in Kumi. I've seen white Crips. So as far as all the racial guidelines and all that kind of stuff, man, that's secondary to the ultimate goal, which is income. Income's going to be through drugs, you know what I mean? Mainly stuff like prostitution, white collar crimes. A lot of people are getting into that kind of stuff nowadays too, but I think the feds are doing the groups a favor. If you're already serving life in the state, what point does it make to take anybody out of a state that's doing life, putting them in the feds, which is, unless you're slammed like deep underground in Colorado, which is going to be better than sitting in the California in the shoe programs or anything like that, or the level fours. You know what I mean? It's going to be way more interactive, cooler. I mean, you guys seen the pictures we show you of the fellas. You know, those are high control yards. You know what I mean? But they're living a lot better than they were in Pelican Bay, and they're able to spread their agenda to all kinds of people that have never heard of it before and possibly make more money. You know what I mean? So the AB, man, they're still doing their thing strong. We, you know, like me and Flacco have talked about them in the past and say that their numbers are light and this and that. We're only speaking from a California, you know, standpoint in Pelican Bay, really. You know, nationwide, they're there. They're a force. They're not playing. They're 100% with the business. You can't take nothing away from them. I don't agree with a lot of their feelings about other human beings, but that don't make them no less dangerous for sure. Now the DC Blacks, man, they're a similar group to the BGF. You know, they might have a couple different philosophies and they might be founded on different principles. But any way you look at it, they're for the empowerment of black people. You know what I mean? And the advancement of black people behind the walls to be, you know, similar to any other group, be able to take care of each other, have safety, generate an income, you know, hustling, etc. And they're a force to reckon with, man. You know, they've actually whacked a couple ABs over the course of history. You know, me looking at the counts, the AB's a little bit ahead, you know, but the DC Blacks, man, they're a large group for where they originate from. You know, DC, don't get me wrong, it's a major metropolitan area. You know, it's probably in the top 10, you know, around the country, you know, including like Baltimore and all that stuff right there. It's a big area with a lot of population. So there's going to be a lot of people in there, but they're saying as far as prison groups go, they're one of the larger ones actually for just being mostly a local group, you know, not like the Crips who are nationwide or not like the AB, which is nationwide. But I'll tell you one thing about the DC Blacks, man. From all the incident things I've read, you know, over the last couple of weeks, and today in particular, man, they've more than held their own against the powerhouse. And the AB is a powerhouse, plain and simple. You know, in California, yeah, they might not be what they were, but overall, their existence as a group nationwide, they're up there. You know, they're top five on anybody's list as far as what they're able to do and their hustle and their propensity for violence. So the DC Blacks, man, you got to give them props, man. Smaller little group out of Washington D.C. putting it down for the brothers, and man, they've been clashing with them for years, man. And in many institutions, it's been all out war since like '81, you know, and they haven't been defeated. You know, they're handling their own. Yeah, they've been able to survive, you know, all kinds of battles in Lewisburg and Marion, and you know, there's no sign of it letting up. You know, they say that the NF has like a small, you know, lightweight working relationship with them, just like the NF would with any black gang. You know what I mean? And you know that the AB and the MA, they stay on a pretty cordial basis at all times, man. So although some of the alliances and stuff change in the feds, you know, with the Bulldogs hanging out sometimes and sometimes not, you know, with the Texas groups, you know, kicking it pretty close, you know, with the NF. You know, a lot of the loyalties, you know, that are in California are still spread out nationwide, with the only exception that I've noticed being the Bulldogs being able to be however they want to be and not be at danger, you know. Another thing too, man, that's a trip about the feds is oh man, I lost my train. Another thing that's crazy, man, is in California, you know, the Pisces are a really deep car, and they're not, you know, they're nobody to take lightly because of their numbers for sure, but they don't really pose like a danger to any other group. You know what I mean? They're real chill inside of California, man. But I know in the feds they're a whole different animal. They click real tough with the MA and their underlings, and they're a presence supposedly in the feds. You know, like I told you guys, man, I ain't been to the feds, but I've been talking to a lot of people recently who have been in a lot of these institutions, you know, that get at me, you know, on Instagram and kind of break it down their experiences that have gone through there. But the Pisces are holding a harder line in the feds than they are on the state for sure. And you know, it's hard to imagine, you know, me doing so much time with Pisces as them being anything other than just chill and, you know, going about their business. You know, to imagine them pushing a hard line is pretty hard for me to believe, man, because they've never been, in my experience in California, all involved in anything kind of political. You know, they'd get into little skirmishes, you know, about some money or something with other groups. You know what I mean? And there's been, you know, a couple times where they've been on the borderline of going off against, you know, maybe the brothers, maybe the Serenos or whatever when they feel like they've been played. But as far as like really politicking, you know, on a prison gang type of level, the Pisces in California were never really with that during my time, you know. But I heard in the feds they're a whole different animal. They're holding down yards and working with the MA and keeping things, you know, real tightly ran and free of, you know, any opposition where they may be at. And you know, that's just really different to me, man. The feds is a whole different animal. But what do you guys think of these prosecutors transferring people out of the states they're in and helping them promote their things nationwide? It seems kind of counterproductive, in my opinion. But you know, federal time, man, is supposed to be real cool. You know, so I mean, is it an advantage or a disadvantage? Like I said, I haven't been there. I'm only going on what I've heard. But it just, the whole thing seems counterproductive. Like the whole Black Widow thing. Now you got NF members all over the country. You know what I mean? They're growing. There's probably 5 times as many in the feds as there are in the state now. You know, and it's the same thing with the MA. They're all over the place, growing. Everybody's growing. All these things with the AB, all these things with other groups that we're not familiar with, the folks and the people back east. And you know what I'm saying? The Texas groups, man, just getting spread, and everybody's agenda, new connections, new pipelines, new territories. To me, it just seems like they're giving them a major boost and allowing to help them grow, you know, which is, you would think, would be counterproductive for their ultimate goal to quell the stuff that these groups are doing. I don't know. But anyway, man, I just wanted to touch on that, man, and let you guys know that, you know, despite the things that we've said, like as far as the BGF and the AB, you know, kind of not being so much a relevant factor in California anymore, I stand by that. You know what I mean? They've fallen off tremendously, you know, compared to the 60s and 70s, whereas the MA and the NF haven't so much. You know what I mean? But on a nationwide tip in the federal system, man, the AB is a powerhouse, and you can't take that away from them. You know what I mean? And just because maybe the BGF might not be real active in California, man, they're still around and they're still uniting with groups like the DC Blacks and other groups, you know, that have like mindsets, you know. So they're still a force, man, in the feds, man, and them DC Black dudes are with the business, man. You know, I was real surprised at some of the stuff I read. They're not playing. They're not messing around. I've never met none, you know. I've only heard about them, and that's the only reason I've really heard about them is because, you know, doing the research on the AB, and I found, you know, all this stuff about how they've been going back and forth with many killings on each side over the last bunch of years. But man, them DC boys ain't playing, you know, straight up. But I just wanted to touch on that real quick, man. I'll probably go live a little later. Hey, you guys remember we're doing another 50-50? You know what I mean? I don't know how it's going so far. It's that's on Flacco's end. He's been getting the tickets and stuff, but not this Sunday, but next Sunday we'll pull a winner, split it right down the middle. Chavez and Chelas won last time. It was only a couple $100 last time. We'll do the same thing again. Split it right down the middle. The membership's still open. Flacco's been adding a lot of dope stuff, man. He has some really good sources to get stuff that nobody else can get. So, you know, on that membership, hit that join button if you want to check it out. And there's a lot of cool stuff on there. He goes live there at least never less than 5 times a week, but I see him on there every day. You know what I mean? But I'm going to go live a little bit later. You know, I haven't been able to do a lot of content lately because the content I've been working on, I've been getting shut down. You know, they want to hush me and my opinions about certain things because, man, I have more opinions than just about some gang stuff. You know what I mean? Talking about gang stuff is cool. I know a lot, especially as far as my former group, you know. And there's all kinds of things I can't say because I'm not here to offend nobody. You know what I mean? I'm just here to enlighten you guys as to the basics and answer some questions. But when I start talking about other things, they want to make me be quiet. So I'm gonna go live, give you guys some time and answer some questions and this and that, probably about 6 o'clock this evening. So until then, have a great day. Your boy Rojo, much love and respect, and have a good weekend.